In this video, what I want to show you is how you can install a door jamb and the door in a system that I call a pre-hung system. Now all that means is when you buy the door and the jamb, you buy them together and they come with the hinges already let in to the jamb and the door. So it just makes the whole process of swinging the or installing the jamb and swinging the door a lot quicker. So that's the end result. Let's go back to the start and have a look at the process. So if you've watched my other video on installing a door jamb, this first little process is going to be very familiar. However, we'll go through it again just for those who haven't and just to remind you. So the first thing is to cut your head to length, and the head length should be the same as the door opening width, which you can either measure or we can mark it directly onto the head. And without having done that, we can go over to our workbench or our saw stool. We then need to find the center line of our head as such, and then from the center line we're going to set out the width of our door. Okay, so whatever the width of the door is, just halve it. Half out from the center that way, halve out from the center that way, will give us the width of our door. We then need to allow for a little bit of clearance on either side of the door. Generally about 3mm if the door and the jamb is going to be painted, or 2mm if it's going to be stained and varnished. So we'll allow for our clearance. So the next step, it's a good idea to get a little bit of offcut of jamb, and generally even if you buy a set of door jambs, there's a little bit of extra in the set. You should be able to cut yourself a small piece of jamb material off so you can actually use it to set out the head. Probably won't be as big as this piece pictured here, but you should be able to cut enough off to do the job. So as you can see, what I've done is I've lined up the rebated part of the jamb with the clearance line, and I'm just going to put a line on the back of that to mark where the jamb, or the back of the jamb, is going to be, and then I can square that line across. Then using the offcut again, I'm going to use the non-rebated section, and I'm going to put a mark here to represent the thickness of the jamb, like that. And then this section we can trench out to give ourselves a surface which is the same level as the rebate, as such. And of course we have to repeat and do that exercise on the other side as well, so that we get a cut in for both styles. Then we can go and have a look at our styles. So this is where the differences start as far as a traditional jamb and the pre-hung system. As you can see, one of our styles has already got the hinges attached, and what we need to know is the distance from the top of the hinge to the top of the door. So over here is our door, so we need to know this distance from the top of our hinge to the top of the door. And with our door jamb over there, we then can transfer that distance onto the jamb. We also have to allow our clearance, so whether we use 2 or 3mm on the head, we use the same here. So that original distance off our door plus our 2 or 3mm clearance will give us the length of the jamb above the hinge. And on the other end, we have to make sure we do similar on this side. So we have to allow the distance, what's left of the door, plus a little bit of clearance on the end for our floor covering. So whether that be carpet, floating floors, vinyl, whatever, we have to allow some clearance so the door will actually clear the floor covering. So that's how we get our Go back to there. That's how we get our style length. Once we've got our style length, we can then attach the head. And once again, as I said in the other video, I prefer to glue and screw this so that it can be glued and nailed. PVA glue will be fine, or any of the construction adhesives will do a pretty good job. So that's the head assembled now. At this stage, there's no need to square the jamb or get it parallel. It can just be put straight up into the opening as it is. So that's the next step. So we stand the jamb in the opening, and the first thing we need to do is make sure that the hinge style, which is where the door is going to be swung from, is plumb and straight and nailed off securely. So as you can see, I've got my level and my straight edge to get it plumb and straight, and I'm installing packers, or in this case folding wedges, behind the jamb and between the stud to pack out that distance. And once my packer's at the right dimension, I can then nail it through the packer to secure that in place. And we need to do that all the way down the door so that that style is perfectly plumb and straight. The next step then is to actually swing the door on. So we line up the hinges, drop in the loose pin and swing the door, and then we can shut it. Now, in the process of shutting it, you may have to lift up the head a little bit and push the style out of the road. But we want to insert a series of packers or spacers that are the same thickness as our clearance. So you can buy 3mm melamine, or you may find some offcuts out of packaging that's turned up on the job site. Or another common thing to use is a 3-inch or a 75mm nail. So they generally have a diameter of roughly 3 to 3.5mm. So you generally use one of those. So we space across the top of the door just to give us the correct clearance there, and then we throw the packers in down the jamb as well. Obviously they're not going to sit there as well as they do in this picture. They'll take a bit of handling to keep putting them in and out. But what we need to do is make sure we go all the way down the door, putting in our spacers and packing behind to get that clearance accurate all the way down there to suit the door. In this case, we're not particularly worried about straight or plumb, although with all things being right, that's what should happen. We just want to make sure that clearance is correct all the way around the door, because that's what people are going to pick up on easiest. It's what will draw the eye and something you'll see as soon as you walk up to the door. So once again, as we pack the style out, we have to nail through the packer and secure it to the stud. And we do that all the way around the door. As I said before, you'll take a lot of opening and closing the door, a lot of inserting and pulling out these spaces. It may even be advisable, if you've got someone else around to give you a hand, to have someone on the other side of the door so they can hold your packing and hold your spaces, or put in a nail for you, just to speed up the process. Once we've then got our lock style, which is the style that's going to receive the lock, nice and straight and nailed off, we can then remove our packers, and then the job's done. The next step I'd advise would be then to actually remove the door and store it away safely while the job proceeds, and then it can be brought back at the appropriate time and re-swung. So that's it. Pretty quick and easy way of installing what I call a pre-hung door and jamb system.